Welcome back. I've got Candace Pendleton on the line. Candace, how are you?
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. Happy
I
girl.
I am thrilled to talk to you. Always good to talk with somebody from SoCal, but especially, you and your background. So why don't you share a little bit about you, and then we're going to jump into this very important conversation.
Oh, I just thank you so much for asking that question. Was my whole goal, well, what I am the CEO and founder of Commodities University. And what we do is we teach savvy investors how to invest and trade in the commodities markets. And a lot of people go, commodities, what are those? Commodities, everything in your home, your house, your car, your life, they're commodities. And so we trade those. And trading commodities is really the secret profession in the whole world because we run the world. We run gold, we run crude oil, we run silver, we run everything you could possibly imagine. And it is so empowering to me to think about me in my little office over here that I can control $100,000 worth of crude oil on one trade. Now, it scared the heck out of me in the beginning because I thought, oh, I don't want it delivered to my front door. But these are all things that people don't know because commodities are a hidden secret. And the beauty of it is, it's not the stock market. The stock market is crazy, insane, manipulated. You can't, only the big boys, and you know who those are, can trade the stock market. They trade the stock market. So what we have done, and specifically now because I'm a woman, and since the day I really started this, I'm guided by God. I'm a Christian woman. I believe in God, and I'm guided by God. And He said to me, "Girl, you got to teach women how to be self-sufficient, how to be financially independent, and not rely on daddy or big daddy or granddaddy or whoever to pay their bills." And so we as women, since the 1800s, there's grandma and grandpa. Grandma was out there working in the fields. She was working her fingers to the bone. And women don't have to do that kind of physical labor now unless they want to. We have brains. And it's been proven, Michael. Now, close your ears. Women make better traders than men. And the reason why is because, number one, pattern recognition. You've seen guys out on the street where they have plaids and checks and polka dots, and you're like, oh, he either doesn't have a woman in his life or he doesn't have a mirror because it just doesn't match. And so what we do is so simple. It's pattern recognition. There's no math, there's no financials, there's no calculus. All that stuff is garbage out the door. But the big boys, the big Wall Street guys, and I'm going to say this with all honesty, transparency, this is my belief. My belief is that they have locked elbows at the curb in Wall Street and said, no women allowed as traders. All right, there can be investors and there can be, whatever. But as traders, it's the funny, most strangest thing. It's a phenomenon that they're mostly men and the trading industry is mostly men. Why is that? I don't know. I think mainly because women have been intimidated that they think they can't do it. So I'm here to tell every woman out there you can do this. It is so simple. It's fun. And how would you like to sit here in the mornings in your jammies before the sun comes up and make 500 bucks in 15 minutes to a half hour? How would that be? That'd be a lot of fun. And so anyway, so that's what I do. I'm on a mission to teach, touch, hold as many women as I can and say, come on over here and let me show you how simple it is, how easy, really. It's just pattern recognition.
Yeah, and I think just women are naturally wired, for lack of a better term, to recognize those things. They see it, and
Yes.
they can. And one of the things, with investing, that I know, is you got to kind of keep emotions at bay. And because you can recognize pattern recognitions, you can avoid, those emotional transactions and trades and things like that. And you see that all the time. And we saw it, in the stock market, especially over the last few years when it became a whole lot easier from the trading stocks, on your phone, your app. It was almost like a game that you
A game.
downloaded on from the app store, and a lot of people, and of course, we had all the craziness with some of the stocks, and where people were artificially boosting it up, and then people were making a lot of money, and unfortunately a lot of people lost a ton of money. And you say the same thing with digital currencies as well, just the zaniness of it. It's like, okay, there's nothing behind it. It's just people saying, oh yeah, it does this, and it just moves and moves. Where commodities, we know what oil is, we know
Yeah.
what gold is.
Yes.
We know that the planet, uses a lot of both of those things, just in
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that doesn't get it. What's funny is it doesn't get the attention that it needs to. But like you mentioned, it's like you could, if you know what you're doing, and especially with pattern recognition and understanding how to, trade commodities, yeah, you can have that cup of coffee, and a lot of people, $500, that might be their week's pay, or maybe a couple weeks depending on what they're working. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're there, and all of a sudden, hey, great, that's a good start to the day, quite frankly. And
Oh, yeah.
going back to your mission and your passion, which resonates with me just immensely. And we talked a little bit about this in the pre-show. I was fortunate that my mom, my grandmother, my great grandmother, and if I knew anybody that would have known, my great great grandmother, my hunch is they would have been in the same situation. They all worked.
Yeah.
They all worked in different fields and industries, not just the fields, but actually, doing actual work.
Well,
Whether it was,
nursing.
yeah, nursing. My grandmother was did a bunch of things in real estate.
Ooh.
She did, yeah, she was, yeah. I remember I remember basement of this real estate office that she worked in. My mom, worked there for a little bit, but that was during, then, it was at the late 70s, early 80s when the housing market did one of their lousy things and nothing was selling. So she didn't do as well as my grandmother did. But I remember in the basement of this real estate place, there was a real estate agent named Joe Clark, and he was a crazy guy. But there was other women, and again, this was in the 70s. There were other women in the real estate office. Now today, I don't know what the percentages are, but in the area that I'm in, I think there's more women real estate agents than men. Just from, I don't have the stats on it, but just from just top of mind seeing ads and things like that, I think it's more geared that way. But in the late 70s, again, I'd go in and I'd see, women realtors, and I wouldn't think a thing of it because I grew up, you know, women
Strong women.
work, did all that kind of stuff. Fast forward to I'm 16. I go to work at a family ran grocery store. My manager, or the person that hired me, was vice president, Susan. She hired me. My boss was Donna. And and so I'm like, okay, I've got, my
Two women.
bosses are women. Okay. I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, okay, my bosses are women, whatever. And then I started to, get exposed to what the glass ceiling is and the pay to, the differences, the gigantic differences that still exist in 2025, which is just annoying as hell to me. Um, because again, I'm like, why is it this way? It shouldn't be this way. And even knowing that, credit cards, so, women couldn't have their own credit card until, early ages of my lifetime. And you think about, travesties in history and you go, oh, it's horrible. They didn't have the freedom and flexibility and ability to do all the things. And you read about it in history books, and you're like, oh, that must be bad. See, I have a problem if it happens during my lifespan.
Yeah.
It bothers me that it happened at all, but it really bothers me that, I was alive when that was going down. I was a little kid, but I still like, how? And
Yeah.
that's and we see that, and as you just mentioned, there are still sectors and fields where women have not made those, inroads that they should have. And even, we talked in the pre-show about Sheryl Sandberg's book and how, how many numbers of females were leading Fortune 500 companies before that book.
Zero.
Zero.
Now
And
50%.
yeah, and I think of, I grew up in Detroit, so I immediately think of Mary Barra, who runs General Motors.
Uh,
Now, she has not had the easiest time running that company. There's been a
of
lot of things gone down there. One, there was the issue with, one of the cars and the recall and all that. You also throw in a pandemic where you couldn't build cars or you couldn't get the parts, and navigating, retooling the organization. And if you go into the dictionary and you say stuck in their old ways, the General Motors logo is right there. They
Yeah.
and I grew up there because my grandfather and great grandfather and father all worked for Generous Motors. So, that's a nickname that we have for
Generous
them.
Motors. Cute.
Little sarcasm thrown in
Yeah,
there too.
sarcasm.
But so I've seen um
Yeah.
and actually my grandmother was a personal assistant to Mrs. Wilson, and Mr. Wilson was the former CEO of General Motors before he
Oh,
served during, I think it was the Eisenhower administration. Anyway, so there's some ties there on that. But ultimately it's, having her lead that organization and navigate through everything that they have gone through, and she's still there, and they're doing
yeah.
inroads and doing a lot of things. It screams volumes. And again, pattern recognition.
Yeah.
She sees things, and I've never had the fortune to be able to speak with her. But I'm going out on a limb here. She sees patterns that I probably wouldn't see just based on her genetics and DNA.
Yeah.
That is quite frankly, a superpower, but it's
Yeah.
also something that organizations should, leverage and lead. That doesn't mean clean the slate and say, okay, everybody's, one
Right.
gender or another. No,
Right. No.
we all have gifts and skills to bring to this collectively. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's so critically important. That's why, the work that you're doing, just in the area of helping women, break
Financially.
through and financially is huge. Well, you look at all the situations, and I'm in the boat too. Where more than half of marriages end, and in many cases, and you see this a lot, where you know the the husband or the male was the one that was predominantly making or bringing in more revenue than the mom because of
The
whatever
kids.
reasons. Yeah,
Yeah.
kids, all that kind of good stuff. And all of a sudden, things happen, or husband passes. It could be a variety of different things. All of a sudden, here they are, and they're like, okay, what do I do? And it's like you can trade your time for money, which you never really get ahead in that one. If anybody hasn't figured that math out yet, let me help you out with that. You won't get ahead.
Yeah.
It just the way it's, I'm not
No.
saying the system's rigged against you, but
The system's rigged against you.
yeah. So you need to come up with other ways to generate
Creative.
and
That's
create
right.
it. And that's where investing is definitely one area. And obviously there's
Yeah.
risk. That's what it's all about.
Calculated risk. Calculated risk.
Very much
Calculated.
so. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's what's so important. And again, bringing awareness to, you know, having more people be aware of the commodities market, which again, all the
Nobody
all the
knows about it.
no
I
one
know.
knows about, which is so funny because I remember again growing up, in the 70s and 80s, and I remember if there was a day that I was, and they did this at night too, but I remember like midday, you know, I'd have the news on because I was watching Price is Right like every other kid that got sick, and stayed home and
Yeah.
watched Bob Barker, and then the news came on and just didn't bother to change channel, and I remember they'd show, okay, you know, Dow Jones, this afternoon is this. This was before NASDAQ. Then the commodities market's doing this and this, and they'd give you a little bit of a detail and just a little snippet of what's going on. It's like you don't see that. I mean, if you flip on,
Yeah.
a news station, but you're seeing the ticker at the bottom, but that's going to be NASDAQ and the stock exchange. And, the
That's right.
commodities, they may, it might be a flash screen, like real quick. It's like, okay, commodities are this. And then it's like,
Yeah. Right. Oil. Right.
did I see
Yes.
something? It's like, oh, it's like, yeah. It's like,
And
let me rewind here. Don't pause, pause.
why?
Yeah.
Why? Why is it's like the ugly cousin that they just push under the rug somewhere in the corner? But why? It's the most beautiful, easy market. And
Hmm.
I think that that's what it is. They don't want, and this is just my guess because I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to figure it out. I've been doing this for over 20 years. Why? Just why is it just, I understand about women, but why is commodities just so shoved under the rug and not talked about? And I think it's because they don't want us there. That's the only reason. Why wouldn't they talk about it, advertise it? They just don't want us there. And that's okay because we're there and we're not going anywhere. And another reason why women make better traders than men, and this is just because of I love men, married to my husband, love him to death. Men have testosterone through their beautiful body to protect us. Right? That's why they're the protectors, they're the fighters, defenders. That's terrific. Well, that testosterone also works negative when we're trading because we get into a trade and every trade we have a very sophisticated. I created a software program 20 some odd years ago, and I have my robo trader, which back then 20 years ago, i I didn't even know what I was doing, but I created this automatic robo trader that tells you when to get in the trade. So you don't really have to guess. There's no emotion. He tells you to get in the trade. You look around, you make a comparison. You got two charts alike, strike. You get in the trade. That's it. Boom. You got your headsets on, you're doing your normal stuff around the house, and you hear the audio because it's audio visual clues that say crude reversing. Well, you get in there and you go check it out and you go, yeah, this looks good. Boom. But the main reason why women really make better traders than men, and this is because men are just built so differently. When the trade doesn't work out, you have usually it's between 5 and 10 seconds. If a trade doesn't work out in those 5 to 10 seconds, then get out of the trade because it's not going to work out. Because we want volume. We want really where it's moving like a son of a gun. And all you do is just hold your bucket out and catch. And so when the markets get choppy, that's when people lose money and get stopped out. And my whole system, it has blue dots that appear that says stay out, stay out. So you know it, you see it, you read it. But the main ingredient is that women are fearless. Women are fearless. God gave us a womb, thank you, dear Lord, so that we could have children, raise children, and be fearless because they beat the you know what out of us every day. Young kids, anybody who's been around young kids, you have to have more energy than God Himself because they're just like little, machines running around. Women have patience, more patience than men typically, and it's only because of our biological, how we're built. And so it's the most beautiful thing in the world because trading is absolutely perfect for women. Women know how to get out of the trade. Boom. My girls, because I lead a trade group. And so I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? We got in this trade. It looks like it's not working out. Let's get out. Boom. And we're out of the trade. Men, not all of them. Hang on. No, no, no. It's going to go. No, no, no. I'm like, get out, Robert. Get out, Robert. No, no, no. It's going to turn around. Boom. He gets out. He gets hurt. So men have the propensity never to let go and never to say, whoops, I made a mistake, just because of the biologicals and all that kind of stuff. So my mission in this big life is to go find as many women as I can that want to explore being financially independent. They don't have to quit their job. I call it a job because that's what it is. It's like you said, trading your time for money. And we have to pay bills. We have to do that. But there's a better way now that they have the beautiful internet. And look at my screens. Yes, I'm a screen addict. I have 10 screens. No, you don't need 10 screens. But because I love my screens and they're so inexpensive when they're off on sale, I just buy them, put them up and connect them. And it makes me feel so wonderful. I'm like in a cockpit where I have all 10 of them and it's the lights are out and all I see are my screens. It's sexy. It's just sexy. That's all it is.
No, I love the multiple screens, and I use multiple screens just in the work that I do, just because it helps me be more productive.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if I'm just, it's like I need something in the background. It's like, oh, like I know tomorrow, there's a Peacock showing the LPG. I don't know if it's I forget which tournament it is, but it's on tomorrow. It's on Peacock, and the one thing, and I don't golf, and I don't want to say I have regrets in life, but I really wish I would have taken it up early on in my life. That way I would just be horrible instead of lousy at it. But it's one of those things where and I'll either put on classical music to just kind of, set the tone, or, I'll put on a golf match and have it just because it's, obviously the announcers are speaking softly because you're supposed to do that. But also it's like you're looking at these absolutely beautiful courses,
Yeah.
and the lush greens and the skies and everything like that. And you're watching these, people, you know, they use strategy. And I watched an LPGA match, I think it was last weekend, and I saw this player make this long putt, and it was, they didn't go right at the putt because they could read the greens. And so basically they
Hmm.
did like a little reversed question mark kind of thing. And And like the hole's there. Why are they shooting it over there? And all of a sudden there, and the green did the thing, and it went.
Boom.
And I'm like, she's done this before, and
Yeah.
and it's like, but then that again, let's going back to what we've been talking about today. It's like pattern recognition.
Pattern recognition. That's
You know,
right.
or guys are like, I don't care, I'm gonna force that ball right in there,
Yeah.
and yeah, they're gonna force it right into the bunker or the drink or the
Yeah.
fescue or someplace that's gonna
Yeah.
make it harder. And let's not quadruple bogey today, shall we? But again, it's one of those things where I, I want people to be whatever they dream to be. And in many cases, there's, a financial attachment to what they want to do. And again, investing, and I probably should have said this at the beginning, it's like we're just having an investment conversation. We're not telling you to buy this or that or
No,
anything like that. Do
no,
your own research,
no.
find, the advisors that, know what they're doing. Not that you don't, you do. Obviously, you've been extremely successful at it and to be able to afford all those screens. It's even though the prices of them have come down a lot over the years, but still,
Yeah.
you have to do it and you have to know what you're doing and all of that. But it's it's a way of, and I'll quote Michael Hyatt. He's the former CEO of Thomas Nelson Publishing, a leadership guru. Followed him quite a bit. Probably 15 years ago, because I was part of his book reading club that he had at Thomas Nelson. So I was reading a bunch of beautiful books and all of that, and writing book reviews on them and whatnot. But he said, and this was when the Great Recession was going on, and a lot of people were losing all kinds of stuff and everything like that. And he said, as crazy as this sounds, I am not going to participate in this recession. I am going to make my own economy. I am going to do everything that I need to do in order to make sure that I am taken care of and I take care of my family, and be the blessing that I can be. And I think that behooves everyone listening or watching to this to do the same thing for them. Figure it out. Investing in commodities is something I highly encourage people take a look at because it's been around a long time. We are consumers on this planet, and what do we consume? Commodities. So take a look at it, research it, find out about it. Reach out to Candace because she knows what she's doing, and
Yeah.
you've been very successful at it. And you could easily, I know you could easily just say, I'm living my best life. I'm able to do the things I do. I live in SoCal, um, real vitamin D, everything. But you're like, no, I want to help people. There's more than enough for us to do this, and you want to empower women and men, of course, but
Yes.
especially
Yes.
women because they have been left out and not allowed to play.
Yeah.
And I
Exactly. Well
think
said.
and that's the thing. And going back to how I was raised and growing up, it's like no, everybody should be allowed to play. There's more than enough positions for us to play, and all of us thrive, and no one's going to lose out because we're letting Candace or Mary do something. No, we're actually getting better because you know what? Hey, maybe we could study and see how they're doing things and learn something.
That's right.
There's a
That's right.
concept.
That's a
I
concept. Yeah.
Yeah, I again, I think back just in my career, the number of female bosses that I've had, and I can't pick one that was bad. They were
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah.
And not different personalities too. It wasn't like it was a cookie cutter thing. There were some that were more nurturing and more, I don't want to say caring, not that they didn't care, but I just think about, all the skills and gifts that they brought and the insights that they have. And, a lot of them were mothers as well. And, I've often said it's like the ability to grow a human being inside of a human being is something.
Yeah.
Miracle isn't a strong enough word for it. It logically speaking, you look at that, it's like this should not be possible. But
Right. Yeah.
we all know with God all things are possible.
Yeah.
So
Right. Yeah.
so so
Yeah,
it,
and
it
that's the reason why women are so much stronger in a lot in many, many different ways is because we have to be. We have to be. Imagine when we live, this is what I tell my students, that everything that we do is emotional. And emotions, and men, yes, it can be emotional, and yes, they can have that emotion in them. But women, because we have the womb and we have all of the plumbing that goes with it, we're higher, more emotional than men are. And people say, oh, emotions, keep emotions out of your investing. That's not true at all. See, this is Candaceism. This is the reason I spin it, is because I invite the emotions to my trading desk because we're traders. It's different than investing. Investing is long term, where you put your money down on a stock or in commodities and you hold it for long term. And trading, at least me, what I'm doing is intraday, where we're in and out within 5 to 15 minutes. Our day's done. Boom. All right. Made my money. Okay, now go on with my day. So I want it quick and easy. I can't stand long term. I mean, I, it's just how I am. Long term is kind of gone right now because of the way that the economy is, but trading is in and out. And now a lot of people say, well, why would you trade? That's gambling. Do you know the difference between gambling and trading, Michael?
I can't think of one, you know. It's odds there. You have to understand in pattern recognition. There we go
Yes, yes,
again.
yes, yes.
You know, is that ball going
How?
to land on red or black? You know.
Well, that's gambling. Now, see, with gambling, you bet on something or someone else to perform, right? You put money down, a horse, the races, the dice, whatever, something else to perform. With trading, I'm betting on myself to perform. You're dang right I'm going to do it right because I'm trained. I will never allow my students, now, of course, it's on a trust basis, to ever trade live money until they're hitting a 70% accuracy, meaning, and we have software, it's not manual, it's software that will determine, okay, you're hitting 50% accuracy. You're not, don't go live money yet. You have to be 70% accuracy. And so I watch them, I monitor them. And my whole goal is when they come into me under my wing, I'm a motivational coach. I transform them. There's no way from where they are, from point A to point B, where they want to go, and give them steps to do it, little baby steps. We don't run, we walk. And so for 90 days, I've got a 90-day system where in 90 days, I'm promising them, guaranteeing them. And the G word is not allowed on the internet. You can't guarantee anything, or the FTC will come and shut you down.
Mhm.
I can guarantee that I will not let them lose. That's my guarantee. The only way you're going to lose is if you quit. That's it. The only way you're going to lose is if you quit. So I've got students that have been with me. I can't do this. Yes, you can. Because motivationally, I push them out of their comfort zone. We all need to be pushed.
Yeah.
It's so easy to take a job and become a secretary and just sit there and listen to. That's when you're trading time for money. But how about trading your knowledge, your experience in educating yourself about a different style? It's just total different. People don't know it because they're afraid of it. And fear is our number one enemy. In life in general, that's what runs the markets. Fear. You remember this last month? Everything was big red day, big down, everybody. So what? If you're fearful, you pull your money out and you get hurt. Just let it in, and it took a month, and the market balanced itself. It's back now where it was before all the tariff stuff. It's just baloney. The markets make money going up and going down, and if you're foolish enough to follow the noise that's out there, you're going to lose money. But follow your knowledge, follow what you know best, and that's why trading and getting into a system that's regimented. You do this, and here's your homework in 90 days. And people are excelling because it's not rocket science. I script away all of the garbage that used to be intimidating. You had to calculate, you had formulas, you had math, you had to, not with me. I hate math. So I said, no math. We're going to do this all on visual. So now I have my little robot, robo trader. I call him Roberto because he's on voice and he sounds like Antonio Banderas, that nice Latino. Oh, it's just beautiful. So he's my voice, but we have audios. You can put any audio on that you want to. But it's easy. It's easy and it's fun. What does take discipline is overcoming the fear of losing money. And Michael, I had no idea. Uh, Trading brings all the worst out of you, which is great because when you identify someone's pattern, now pattern recognition goes in life in general. Okay, you have a partner. I, when you know that partner inside and out, the way that they look in the morning when they're having their coffee, right? If you got a happy face, oh, I gotta be happy today. If you got a, okay, we're not gonna talk anything today. I'll see you, love you, honey, bye, and you're gone, right? But that's pattern recognition. We're recognizing when someone else is having an issue with us or having an issue in their life, and so recognizing the pattern is number one, and then identifying the pattern is number one. How easy is this? It's 3 steps. Identify the pattern, and then once you are identify the pattern, then you execute effectively. So if you know, I use this just like with my husband and I. We bicker, just like old married couple. Well, because we're old married couple, so we bicker about stupid little things, and I have to laugh at it because it's stupid when you come down to the big picture. It's not anything other than just nah 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 nah. And so identify what's wrong with him. He's grumpy. My sweet Robert, love him to death. He's just grumpy. He's got a huge the weight of the world on his shoulders. I understand that. I identify when he's having a bad day, right? And then I execute effectively. I don't get in his way. I don't say, okay, you know what? I want to move the furniture. I don't do anything that's going to irritate him or tick him off. So I'm calm. You identify it first, then you execute effectively, and then you manage the trade. And it works on trading because we don't trade candles. Those are little candles. That's a price action that you see in there. We trade people on the other side of that candle. So it's pattern recognition. And it's the most for me to understand that I can teach people, men and women, of course, because my industry right now is 95% men. And that's my goal. God gave me this challenge to be able to educate women and financially free them from having to take a job or be in a marriage that they don't want to be in because they don't have the money. And it's doable. It's real. 30 seconds. Let me tell you my story. When you talked about your strong uh, female leaders on your side that trained you, God bless them. All right. Those are our ancestors. Those are our ancestors. I didn't really have that. My husband died. My Bill Pendleton passed away when we'd been married 8 years. He didn't take care of his health. Beautiful man. But for anybody who's listening out there, if you got a problem, go to the doctor like right away. Do not say, oh, it's going to go away. God bless his heart. He was an engineer. And if you know engineers, everything has to be perfect in squares. That's why they had the grid paper. He was like that beautiful human being, gorgeous man, but scared to death of being imperfect. And by the time they found the cancer, he died 62 days later. I had 2 babies. My oldest was 2.5, and my baby was 6 months old. And I had Bill's mother, Anna, my mother-in-law, living with us. So I had 3 children because she was in her 70s and bearing her 47-year-old son. I mean, it sent her to the edge. She was on the couch every day just crying. So I said, okay, I can't do this. I can't send my babies to daycare and end up paying to work to pay. No, it's not going to work. So I got to figure something out. So Bill was a trader and an investor. And when he was alive, I'd watch over his shoulder what he was doing. I said, that's really fascinating. One of those little candles are moving. Then after he passed, and I was looking at his computer and I said, okay, I'm going to try this. I didn't have the right attitude. I didn't have the right training. I didn't have the right coach with me. Failed, blew up my first account, trading stocks, tried to get into the stock market. Then because I had family that believed in me and I raised money, I went into the options market. And I'm shortening now. This was 10, 15 years. I blew out my second account. And then finally I found futures. And futures is so easy. It's elegant. If there's lack of a better word, it's just elegant. How does the market become elegant? It does exactly what it tells you it's going to do. It doesn't throw stuff at you. The stock market is crazy. It's crazy making. If you're not crazy before you start trading the stock market, you will be crazy afterwards, guaranteed 100%, and lose all your money because it's very expensive and you don't have to spend that kind of money. You can get started trading futures for 2,500 bucks. Boom. And the education you're going to need behind it. So you're going to pay one way or the other, either for education or losing it by doing it on your own. So follow a system. Don't be fearful. Trust the system. You must have a system that tells you when to get in the trade. Otherwise, you're going to be emotional thinking, yes, no, 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 let the computer do it. AI You know how strong AI is now. I mean, AI is going to be bigger and better than all of us in the future. It's coming in very strong. And next week, they announce quantum AI. Have you heard about this? Wow, it's going to blow your socks off. Quantum AI, which is, I think it's 800 times faster than AI is now. Can you wrap your arms around that? I have trouble with that because it's going to disrupt the world. But everybody understand that in disruption, there's going to be house cleaning where like Trump is going now through the government, whatever he's doing with a weed whacker, a weed blower, blowing out everything. There's going to be dust, there's going to be collateral damage, but we are going to survive because the US capital markets are the strongest markets in the entire world. If you have 200 billion dollars under asset management, where are you going to put it? Venezuela? Nope. Britain? Nope. China? Nope. Where are you going to put US? So don't ever lose trust in the American capital markets are the best in the whole world. And we'll figure it out. But just know that figure out your emotional intelligence is so important. I trade with emotions, but it's a psychological thing that I take my students through and only invite the right emotions in. My Xena warrior is one of the warriors that I invite into my trading desk. And she's the one that she's the one that bam, gets in the trade and has the stones to do it. Where I might be frightened, I might have a little fear, trepidation, hesitation. I let Xena do it. But then Mr. D is always at my trading desk, Mr. Discipline. He's the one rolls out our trading plan and says, all right, here's the trade setting up. Xena, get in the trade. Boom, she's in the trade. I'm the CEO hovering above. This is all just emotional intelligence that it takes you in order to really be able to trade MONEY, because money, Michael, money is the culprit of our fear. It's really difficult for people to say, I don't want to lose money. Well, guess what? What I'm doing over here, we get paid to lose money. And we get paid really, really well because we know how not to lose a lot of money. Lose a little tiny bit, get out if it's not working out. And then when it does work out, pour on, back up the truck, as they say, and just pour it on. And so that's the difference. So never be afraid of reaching out and pushing yourself to the next level, because that's how we're going to end up being self-sufficient and then turning around and helping others up the ladder of success. That's the most joy. It's not about money. It's about somebody else going, yay, I just made money. For me, at least for me, being able to help them and give them that gift.
Yeah, it's an amazing gift indeed to give, and to give from a place where you're just ecstatic in the success, and you want other people to taste it and experience it. So, Candace, I've loved this conversation. Where can people find out more about you and reach out to you to learn more about all this work?
I have two ways. Easy, go to commodities with the plural, commoditiesuniversity.com, and you can sign up there, go to our newsletter. But even more personal than that, I want to give you my personal email because it's easy to remember. CP, as in Candace Pendleton, at commoditiesuniversity.com. And that's my personal email. My students have that. I'm 100% into, I almost too much to a point, but that's my way of giving back. God's been so gracious to me my whole life, and I have to give back before my days are over. That's it, period. End of story.
So we have an angel among us. So, Candace, thank you so much for your time today.
All
Really
right. Love
love
you
this
guys. Thank you.
conversation. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much. Bye, Michael. Thank you, dear. Bye. God bless you, everybody. Bye bye.